Namaste, namaskaram, vanakkam, namo namaha, jai Ganesha. Please visit our website at classicalyoga.org, and there is a donate button if you would like to help us out. Today's podcast, only two, period. This one was inspired by two recent podcasts we did, Only One, question mark, part one and part two. Hopefully destroying the myth of a one creator, God, being, noun. Obviously, a lot of people are suffering under that delusion. And here's another one that's prevalent today. The delusion of yoga. So we're going to do this in Hindi and Sanskrit, and then stay tuned, though, because we'll explain it in English. Do yogas hai, do yogas asi. Sat, asat, cha. Kyaa sat yoga? Sat yoga Hindu dharma hai. Hindu acharyas, dakshina. Magar asat yoga, ne Hindu dharma, ne Hindu acharyas. आप खरीदना बहुत महंगा है. क्यों योगा हिंदू धर्म है? क्योंकि योगा संस्कृतम अस्ति. युज आत्मन ब्रह्मन च. आत्मन ब्रह्मन च सत चित आनंद ज्योति शक्ति आनंद शांति. Hindu dharma yoga hai. Yoga Hindu dharma hai. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, gyan yoga, hatha yoga, mantra yoga, japa yoga, nada yoga, kundalini yoga, Tamil, charye kariye yogam, Jnanam, karma, bhakti, raja, jnana. So I have a Hindu Guru Patanjali, yama, niyama, karma, bhakti yoga hai. Asana, hatha yoga, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, sab sarva, raja yoga hai. Samadhi, gyan yoga hai. Vedas mein Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda, Jnana Kanda. Upasana, Hatha Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga. Ye tino eka. Smit Smaran, Hatha Vidya, Bhaveda Yavate Guya, Niveda Tu Prakashavaranam. मैं थोड़ी थोड़ी हिंदी बोलता हूँ. So, obeisance to all the Hindi and Sanskrit scholars out there. But basically, there are only two yogas today. Real and unreal. Or real and phony, spurious. What is real yoga? Well, first and foremost, yoga is a Sanskrit word, yogam, Tamil. So Sanskrit and Tamil are equally ancient languages. And Sanskrit is, by definition, the ancient Arya, another confused word, which profoundly means noble. That, like the swastika, actually has nothing to do with Hitler. This is just quite amazing. You can review our podcast on this, but Kona has done a great job in bringing to light, finally. I mean, we Hindus are pretty lazy. Took 80 years to figure this out, but Hitler never, ever even used the word swastika. He used the Christian term for the Hakenkreuz. It actually has a Christian connotation. Wow, this is quite amazing. Hindus have been stolen from. Their dharma has been distorted for centuries. This is the fault of the invaders and the fault of the Hindus for not clearing these things up. Why does it take us so long? So today there are basically two yogas, real yoga and phony yoga. What's real yoga? Well, it's Sanskrit, and Sanskrit is, by definition, the ancient Arya or noble language of the Hindus. It's a religious language. English is our common language around the world, and that's okay. I mean, that's what we have to accept, obviously. But it's a secular language, and that's fine. But Sanskrit, Tamil, these are religious languages. So anybody who's honest, when they utter a Sanskrit word like yoga, namaste, guru, Shakti, Shanti, Kundalini, chakras. If they're honest, they have to recognize that this is all about Hindu Dharma, or we can use in English the word religion. Remember, we don't want to balk at that word, because then we're being disingenuous, actually, because all of our organizations are incorporated as religious organizations. We put that on a hospital form. Under religion, we put Hindu. And of course, if you need to file a discrimination suit, it's not under Dharma or Sanatan, it's under Hindu religion, or it's under religious discrimination suit. So we can use this word, but obviously amongst ourselves, Hindu Dharma is the appropriate term. So Sanskrit is a religious language, the language of the Hindus, Sanskrit and Tamil. And this Sanskrit Hindu word, yoga, which is so prolific today, but how many understand that the meaning of this word yoga actually has nothing to do with the physical body at all? That's a shocker. You know, and it's kind of like, it's as absurd as if those of us that are not Christians, if we were to offer a class in underwater therapy, water aerobics, and we called that class baptism, we'd just get laughed at, wouldn't we? For good reason. And it's insulting to the Christians. Yeah, there's water involved in baptism, but baptism is a sacred Christian rite. Yes, there are postures, asanas, in one specific area of Hinduism called Hatha Yoga. We'll get into that in a bit. But just like baptism, all of Hatha Yoga, all the yogas are all sacred Hindu practices. Stretching and relaxation is one thing. But Hatha Yoga and the asanas, that's really deep into the Hindu Dharma. So, Yuj Atman Brahman Cha is the definition of the Sanskrit Hindu word yoga, yogam, Tamil. To yoke Yuj to one's Atmana and then Brahman. Now already we're deep, deep into Hinduism. And actually it's saying nothing about the body here. So this is the essential meaning of the Sanskrit Hindu word yoga, to yoke, Y-O-K-E, huge, to our Atmana, and then Brahman. Now what is the Atmana? It literally means in English, not your mind. It's similar but different than the English word soul, which comes from the Greek psyche, which is still connected to the mind. It's incorporeal, which means not your body. So therefore, if you think about it, no body is spiritual. That debunks the modern cliche, I'm spiritual but not religious. Ooh. As J. Sai Deepak said, that those who utter that phrase are neither one. They're neither spiritual or religious. They're clueless. Spiritual refers to that which is incorporeal, so no body is spiritual. Actually, it's the religious process that are the rules and regulations, the path, if you will, that lead one to that which transcends the body. And in the case of Hindus, the mind also, and the emotions, hence Atmana. Atmana means not the mind. It's the inner essence of, and we define it, which is interesting that those of you of other religions, ask your priests, ask your rabbis, your imams, etc., what is this soul or spirit? Ask them to define it for you. But we define this Atmana. It is Sat Chit Ananda. It's pure consciousness, pure energy, sound energy, light energy, heat energy, which translates into the human emotion of bliss or love, Ananda, Priya. Sat Chit Ananda, pure consciousness, pure energy, pure light, knowledge also, and bliss, Sat Chit Ananda. Jyoti, light, Shakti, energy, Ananda, and Shanti. We can add Shanti to it because it's a loving peace. Jyoti Shakti Ananda Shanti. Love, light, and energy. Om. This are we with emotions, mind, and body. And then what's Brahman? Well, Brahman is simply and profoundly a greater source of this Sat Chit Ananda. Like a big fire, and all of us, if we took a stick out of that fire, are like individual flames, similar, not as big, obviously, but similar in constituent parts to the big flame. It's really the same thing. It's just a smaller aspect of it. That's our individual, or Jeev Atma, our individual Atmana. So this is the meaning and the goal of what it is to be a Hindu. No Hindu, no yoga. No yoga, no Hindu. From the Rig Veda, yoge samana parivam sapta shravato rato gat. Through the processes of yoga, all the many yogas which we'll go into in a moment, they're to help us realize or connect to the Atmana, the individual Jivatma of love and light and energy, Satchidananda, Jyoti, Shakti, Ananda, Shanti. And then we get absorbed in the greater source, Brahman. Now just think for a moment, if you're with somebody right now, you already have two Atmanas, so already there's the concept of Brahman, the greater source of Sat Chit Ananda, the big fire, from which we are little fires, which we are currently going through a specific incarnation. But in our meditations, and certainly when we drop off the physical body, we merge back into the big fire again, like putting the stick back in. It's a great example. Next time you have a fire, or just your little diya, take a match and take some of the fire out and then put it back in. You'll get the concept here. Huge Atman Brahmancha. So we have set the stage, so to speak, for what it is to be a Hindu. And remember that is, by implication, the original word, Hindu. It doesn't matter if you use the H or not. It's not really a foreign term. Hindu is beautiful. And review some of our podcasts on this. Hindu, this Sanskrit word, means Chandra Sarid Bindu Soma, which refers to the moon and Shiva, and the waters and the Matajis, and the sun, Surya, and Vishnu, and the Soma, nectar of bliss that resides in all of it. It's a beautiful word. Hindu, Chandra Sarid Bindu Soma. And of course, we have many synonyms to be respected. Vritta, Dharma, Vedic Dharma, Yoga Dharma, Sanatan Dharma, Brahmanism, Hinduism, the Hindu religion, Sabeka, Sarva, Ekam. Don't divide them up. We are a Hindu family, Saiva, Vaishnava, Shakti, the three. So don't fall into the mindset of the invaders, the colonizers, divide and conquer. We are a Hindu family. We're Hindus and we do yoga, all of it. To reach what? Our goal, Atma Darshana, Paramodharma. Realize that Atmana, the very meaning of the word yoga. Okay, so, now how do we do this as Hindus? How do we yoke or yuj to this Atmana? How do we uncover our inner essence of Satchidananda, Jyoti, Shakti, Ananda, Shanti, or love, light, and energy? Well, this is where the lifestyle of being a Hindu comes into play. And this is why the prefix is really important to clarify. How are we doing this? Well, we're doing this through karma yoga, Hindu ethics, and seva, or selfless service. We're doing this yoking to the Atmana through bhakti yoga, Hindu devotions. We're doing this through contemplations, Raja yoga, dharana dhyana. And we're doing this through outer study and the inner study. Interesting. As we get quiet, the inner knowledge may or may not come through. This is Jnana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Jnana Yoga. So these are the classic 4 yogas that are really in order, step by step. Karma, Bhakti, Raja, Jnana. Tamils call it Chariye, Kariye, Yogam, and Jnanam. Now, in the Yoga Sutras, which is only one of the 6 orthodox systems of Hindu philosophy, the Shad-Darshana. So people today who are into this phony yoga stuff, we'll get more into that in a minute, but always ask them, because they've had a cursory view of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, ask them to explain the Shad-Darshanas. They'll say, huh? Because this is simply one of the 6 orthodox systems of Hindu philosophy, and the philosophies, that's only a small part of the scriptures of Hinduism. Remember, we have the Vedas, the Agamas, the Tantras, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, Tirukkural, Tirumantram, Puranas, the Shadarshanas, etc., etc. Many, many scriptures in Hindu Dharma. Many deities in Hindu Dharma. Remember? That's why there's no only one, question mark. We live in a polymorphic world, existence. So, this is the Hindu Yoga Dharma, or Hindu religion. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga. And within those four classic yogas, and for a moment here we'll touch on the Hatha Yoga, because we do an asana called Vrikshasana, tree pose. And when you do that one, and let's point out at this point that Hatha Yoga, these are Hindu devotional postures, and they really were developed from the inside out. So, for example, if you look at a tree, and you worship that tree, and then you say to yourself, well, how can I have an affinity, a closeness to you? Well, let me emulate you. And don't we do this as children, as we pretend to be this or that? So how can we pretend to be like a tree? Well, stand on one leg, just like the tree is. So the tree, and we call it vrikshasana. And asana is posture. And remember, posture, and first and foremost, is an attitude. Attitude is everything. The inner attitude, which then becomes manifested on the outside. So, if we look at this tree, let's take a fully grown, blossoming, fruit-producing tree. It's doing all of this at once, isn't it? It has strong roots. Karma Yoga. That's what's holding us together. The trunk, they always reach up, don't they? Look how steeples go up. Hindu temples, they go up. We do namaste, our fingers go up. We look up. That's Bhakti Yoga. That's the trunk of the tree, reaching up out of the roots of Karma Yoga. And then it branches out into the flowering process of Raja Yoga, the royal yoga, the flowers, the many branches, because there's a lot going on in Raja Yoga in the depths of contemplation. Remember, meditation is an English word, and it simply and profoundly means to concentrate. And you can concentrate on anything you want. It doesn't necessarily have to have a spiritual, if you will, connotation. Contemplation is the better English word for that, because it literally means to go within your temple, contemplum. But this is the area we call Raja Yoga, the flowering that comes out of the bhakti, that comes out of the karma, the roots. See the wisdom of the tree? The tree is teaching us. They become our gurujis. Wow, next time you take a walk, just appreciate the trees that have probably been there for 50, 75, maybe 100 years. Just standing there. The silent gurus teaching us, like Dakshinamurti. And then what's the final product in the fruit tree? Well, the fruit. Jnana Yoga, enlightenment. And then, beautifully, within that fruit is the seed as it drops to the ground, and the whole cycle starts all over again. Remember, as Hindus, we believe in samsara, reincarnation, which is not a monotheistic belief. Remember, we're not monotheists. So, this classic tree pose, Vrikshasana, is teaching us the wisdom of life in general, and certainly the Hindu Yoga Dharma specifically. Remember, don't confuse the two. Devotion, for example, is a general term. When you use the word Mass or Communion or Eucharist, now you're specifically talking about Christianity, and in the case of Mass, even more specific. That's Catholic Christianity. So devotion is a general term. When you talk about Bhakti Yoga, that's Hinduism. That's specifically Hinduism. This is an error that we often make, confusing generalities and specifics. So be like the tree, fellow Hindus, and do all the yogas. Maybe Swami Vivekananda was misquoted, I don't know, or maybe he didn't fully understand it, because he often is been quoted as saying that you can pick and choose whatever one you want, but you really can't. It's like you can't pick and choose to have a fully blooming, blossoming, fruit-bearing tree. It has to have all these things. It has to have the roots, Karma Yoga, the tree reaching up, Bhakti Yoga, the branches and the flowers, Raja Yoga, to the fruit, Jnana Yoga. And notice when you first plant that seed, as a soul, as an Atman, when you're first planted, right? And then we grow. This is evolution. This is the spiraling nature of life. Every year, that tree grows larger and larger. So the first year or so, it may produce a few flowers, maybe a fruit, maybe not. This is a beautiful analogy for the ongoing process, right? But we keep it up, and year after year, till finally 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the road, you have this beautiful, fully blossoming tree, which has strong roots, karma yoga, strong, developed trunk of bhakti yoga, devotion, the secret ingredient of life, actually. But it has to be predicated upon good, solid roots, because we could be devoted to the wrong thing, like today's phony yoga. It doesn't matter if you've been doing something for 10, 20 years. If we've been doing something wrong, well, good luck. Got to retrace our steps. And then that fully formed trunk is producing multitude of branches. Look at the banyan tree. That's why that's sacred to Hindus and Buddhists, for example. Remember, a Buddhist comes right out of Hinduism. Really, we look at them as our brothers and sisters. The Buddha was a Hindu, born and died. And then the fully producing fruit, lots of fruits. I mean, it's wonderful in mango season to sit under a mango tree and look at the gift of nature, right? As the fruits just drop in our lap. Think about that for a moment. This is the giving nature, the dana nature, that helps to eradicate our lobha, our greed. Things that we really need in life, they're given to us free on a daily basis. Air, water, food. Water in the sense that it falls from the sky, and you can just pick a fruit off the tree, and the tree doesn't say $5, please. No. Something to think about. So within these classic 4 yogas that define Hindu dharma, again, no yoga, no Hindu, no yoga, real yoga that is. Within these 4 classic yogas, we have Hatha Yoga, Hindu devotional postures, Mantra Yoga, Hindu devotional chants, Om Namah Shivaya, for example, Japa Yoga, Hindu devotional chants on a mala, Rudraksha, for example, for the Saivas, Tulsi for the Vaishnavas, and sandalwood for Mahaganapati. Remember, we are a Hindu family, Saiva, Vaishnava, Shakti, the 3. So let us live in harmony and follow the Dharma and plant your yoga tree, which is Karma Bhakti Raja Jnani. This is Hindu Dharma, Om Shanti. And we have Ganapati Muruga Shiva Shakti, Ganapati Krishna Vishnu Lakshmi, Ganapati Hanuman Sita Ram, Durga Lakshmi Saraswati, and Kali Durga Parvati. So, of all the classic yogas, Karma Bhakti Raja, Jnana, Hatha Mantra, Japa, Nada, Nata. And Nada are the devotional music, Nata the devotional dance. And all of this stimulates the inner awakening, which is called Kundalini Yoga. It's not really something to be taught separately, and certainly not by non-Hindus. But within these classic yogas, there was only one, that the rishis, the wise, holy sages of Hinduism said, keep secret. Take a guess. The very one that's out there, under the guise of yoga, under the misuse of the Sanskrit Hindu word yoga, Hatha Yoga. These are Hindu devotional postures. Hatha. Ha stands for Har and Hari, Siva and Vishnu respectively, and the moon and the sun, Tha. Siva Chandra and Surya Vishnu respectively. Hatha are worshipful postures to Siva and Vishnu in the various incarnations of Vishnu, which represent the law of evolution. And to the Matajis also, Padmasana, to Mother Lakshmi. There's no postures to Jesus, I guess, except in the nonsensical Christian yoga stuff. Talk about distortion. So Hatha Yoga was the only one. This is really bizarre that the Rishi said keep secret. And where do we find the asanas? Typically one learns, from their guru, from their pandit, their yogi, their swami. And it's one-on-one. This is the way the Hindu dharma was always presented, whether you're learning to play the tabla or the sitar or dance, classic dance, Bharatanatyam. You always learn one-on-one with a teacher, and it's done just by oral instruction, and later things are written down, but some things are never written down. Hindu music is pretty spontaneous. It's not really written down. People learn the tala and the ragas, and they just play spontaneously. It's a beautiful thing, and it takes years and years of dedication, decades of dedication to develop those arts, which, pause for a moment and think that, talk about becoming more and more spurious or phony. Somebody becomes a professional, certified, authoritative. That's the meaning of certified. Yogi in 200 hours? Come on, folks. In general, people should know better than this, but especially you Hindus, you artists who have taken decades to perfect your art. And you're allowing this to happen. Some of you are even joining in. Talk about capitulation. Again, as J. Sai Deepak said, we have become so colonized, we don't even know how colonized we are. So we have Indian Hindus, and many of them actually, because they don't understand the meaning of the word Hindu, Chandra Sarir Bindu Soma, they've actually joined in this spurious yoga alliance, 200 hours, it's all nonsense. So, where do we find the description of the various asanas, the various postures, and kundalini and chakras that is so enticing to many people today because it's chic, it's exotic, I guess. That's why they don't want to have a stretching and relaxation class. That doesn't sound cool. Or a yoga class. Yoga and meditation. Listen to our podcast on yoga and meditation and see how that's a totally bogus phrasing. So, the classic texts, where do we find these? The Hatha Yoga Pradipika by Yogi Svatmarama. The Giranda Samhita by Sage Giranda. The Siva Samhita, which is actually attributed to inspiration from Siva and Parvati. And then the Siddhasiddhanta Bharati of Yogi Gorakhnath. These are classic texts on Hatha Yoga asanas, Kundalini, chakras. And every single one of them, they always beseech Shiva, because Shiva is the epitome of the yogi in the forest. They all beseech Adinatha Shiva, Siva. And they all say the same thing that Svatmarama said. All of them. Hatha, Vidya, Bhaveda, Yavate, Guya, Niveda, Tu, Prakash Avaranam. They didn't say this about Karma Bhakti Raja Jnana, Mantra Japa Nara Nata. They did about Hatha though. The knowledge Vidya of Hatha is powerful Bhaveda. When you keep it secret, Guya, and it loses power, Niveda, when you display it, Tu Prakash Avaranam. If you read these texts, if a person really takes the time to respect what is true Hatha Yoga and the in-depth understanding of all the yogas, they're to take one deep and deep into their inner nature, not out into the material world. An honest read of the Yoga Sutras, and sadly that's just, people look at one small part of it, the Ashtanga portion, which is only one small part. How will you ever know any book or any work if you only read one small part of it? But even that's totally distorted. And remember that the Yoga Sutras make absolutely no mention of any specific asana whatsoever. Simply find one steady, comfortable one, Sthira Sukhamasana, which, and for what reason? This is not often told, but the reason for one steady posture is to go into the absolute and transcend duality. Prayatna saitilianta samapatibhyam dvandava anibhagataha. Transcend duality, not enter into it. So again, the Yoga Sutras are not a manual for Hatha Yoga. Those would be the aforementioned texts. But they said to keep it secret. Don't display it. Why? Well, because of what we have today, which is the Asat Yoga, the phony yoga. Serious individuals, thoughtful individuals, and certainly Hindus need to ask themselves some serious questions. Why? Is there hot yoga, power yoga, doggy yoga, laughter yoga, nude yoga, goat yoga, beer yoga, Kino yoga, Adrian's yoga, Ted's yoga, Mary's yoga, Emily Rao yoga, people putting their name on sacred Hindu teachings. Wow. Ad nauseum. And these phony yogas of today are not without serious consequences. So listen to our podcast on the con art of living. And you can see how by divorcing yoga from Hindu Dharma, by Indian gurus, sadly, they must have had ulterior motives, or else they were so deluded into a universal mindset. Remember, when you grow up in a religion, there's often the tendency to think that that's all there is. So many suffered from this blind universalism. Many come from the Vaishnava camp, thinking that Vishnu, Krishna, Ram perhaps, these are the ultimate, especially in the case of Krishna, the ultimate deity which absorbs everything else and becomes everything else. This is the fundamentalist universalist mindset. It's a very extreme mindset. And what's the solution to that? The other extreme is obviously the pure, quote-unquote, fundamentalist who thinks every other religion is evil. But there's a middle ground, my friends. Right? It's not merely just one side or the other, fundamentalist or universalist. The middle ground is a way. That's a mature understanding in life in general, but certainly when it comes to the religions of the world. Humbly admit that your religion is a way. It's not the way. It's not a universal way. It's for all those who choose to follow it, but it's not the universal way for everybody. We got to get over that. It's a way. So, do, dvi, yogas asi, sat, asatcha. Which one are you going to choose to follow, if any? Now, it's wonderful that many people are interested in things coming out of Hindu Dharma, though most often they don't want to recognize that they are Hindu for one reason or another. And think for a moment of the ego nature, that one can so quickly become a teacher or a guru, or have people bow to their feet and look up to them, in a few 6-month courses or whatever. And it's a pretty heady trip. It really plays to the ego nature. But if people are truly interested in the Hindu Yoga Dharma, well, do just that. Really get interested and study. Go to various ashrams and temples, and hopefully the people there are going to have some deeper understanding and not try to introduce you into a blind universalist mindset or not stand up for the Dharma. I mean, again, it's a 50-50 thing. We have to say shame on all the invaders and the colonizers throughout the ages, but shame on the Hindus for, even to this very day, not standing up for the Dharma. And we often think that it's when many people don't understand the symbolism of Mahaganapati. Now, we have many deities within Hinduism, and many people have intimate interconnections, but the symbolism is really important, and that can be just enough sometimes. So if we look at the symbolism of Mahaganapati, the very story of his creation was to stand up and protect his Mataji, Ma Parvati, which symbolizes protecting the Dharma. In life, we have to get some guts here. We have to have some courage and stand up for what's true. And so in that story, Ganesha stands up to protect the Dharma, protect his Mataji. And in the process, what happened? He lost his head. So this is telling us all that we need to stand up for principles in life and don't expect to always win. You might lose, and you might lose big. But we're in this for the long haul. This is developing good sportsmanship. That's why competitive sports are often a good thing, because if they teach you sportsmanship. Because there's two sides, and you can't always win. And we have to be good losers. Good winners and good losers. This is developing the sportsmanship in life. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. We're all in this together on this learning curve. So we all know the story that Ganesha now gets the head of the elephant, and he's forever known, probably he's one of the most popular deities around the world, and certainly one of the most popular known deities of Hindu Dharma. And there's so much going on there. I mean, you can listen to our podcast about the wisdom of Mahaganapati, but basically, why an elephant head? Because when you look at his form, and again, a picture's worth 1,000 words, the very form itself is reminding us of who you and I are. We are animals, but we are human animals. And we do, whether we know it or not, have an inner essence, which we Hindus call the Atmana, a soul, if you will. Again, it's a bit different. So we look at Ganesha, he's animal, human, and divine. So too are we, animal, human, and divine. And just living life will help us to work with these three aspects of our nature: our animal nature, our human nature, our divine nature. This is the life process itself. And you may, at some point, find that one of the religions of the world works for you. Fine. Then be fully committed to it. Right? But respect, please, that it's a way, it's not the way. It's not a universal way for everybody, just for those who choose it, but it's not for everybody. So the cliche, Jesus is for everybody, that's no different than New Agers who say yoga is for everybody. It's the same extremist mindset. The former is a pure, if you will, fundamentalist, and the latter is a fundamentalist universalist. So if you choose to study the Hindu yoga dharma, well, just do that. And there may come a point when you feel that this is the religion, the dharma, the way for you. If so, then fully commit to it. And there's really something that you find indicative to all the religions of the world, the name-giving sacrament. The naming. That happened for Christians at confirmation, at baptism, when you get your name. Naming is important. This is what we do as humans. Think of when you meet somebody. Isn't that one of the first things you do? Even when you meet their dog or their cat, their animal. What's their name? Naming is important. This is what we do. So when you become a Hindu, formally, if you choose to, you don't have to, obviously. You could not study at all or just study for the rest of your life. That's fine. But if you formally choose to become a Hindu, for example, just as when people convert to Christianity, they're given a Christian name, you take on a Sanskrit or Tamil, etc., Hindu name. So there's no Swami Mary or Kino yoga teacher, right? That's absurd. When you become a Hindu, you take on a Hindu name. Again, you don't have to formally become a Hindu, but if one decides to become a Hindu, then you take on a Sanskrit, Tamil, etc. Hindu name. And certainly, logically, honestly, ethically, before anybody ever attempts to teach, again, one can study something for the rest of their life, but if you want to be a teacher, especially if you want to be a teacher of any of the religions of the world, the first thing would be to be a member of that religion. Doesn't that make logical sense? So if yoga is all about the Hindu religion and you want to teach it, well, the first thing you're going to have to do is become a Hindu. And this is going to take time. That's why so many just skirt this avenue, right, and become a professional yoga teacher in 200 hours by going to some, illusory course. It's just to make money. It's just to promote the person teaching it, right? It's just a big business. It's nonsense, actually. So becoming a Hindu would be the first thing after much study, the name-giving sacrament, which we call the Namakarana Samskar. Then maybe a person could teach at that point. So we went through an awful lot today. Kind of inspiring time because we just came out of Mahashivaratri and spring's coming. We're going to have our holy festival coming up in 2 weeks. Springtime again. As we go round and round, the seasons actually represent where we highlight the different yogas. Remember, we do them all on a daily basis, but there may come a time when you do more karma yoga than bhakti yoga, etc. But again, you're doing them all. But just like the tree, remember? There's a time when you may have to focus on the roots and nourish the roots. There may be a time when you have to repair the trunk of the tree or do something with the trunk. Certainly when it's young, stake it up. There's a time when you take care of the flowers in a certain way. You may have to even spray them for insects, etc. But you do them all, remember? Perhaps that's what Swami Vivekananda meant. We don't know for sure when he talked about the different yogas. We need to do them all, but in your life, you may focus more on one than the other, though you'll do all of them, right? And this may change over life, or you may live your whole life and just be so immersed in bhakti. And some are so immersed in Raja Yoga, you never see them. They're off in the forest, all by themselves. So, with all of this complexity that we went through today, remember, keep it simple. The title of this podcast, only two. There's only two yogas, Sat Asatcha, real and phony. Which one are you going to choose? The choice is up to you.